People love him already. He's got the Rhode Island twang.
The long pass to Moore and a pin block from Martin.
Tune in to Cam's Corner.
He's going to make it here.
Draws the foul for another Rhode Island and one.
Podcast, got his own podcast.
It's good off the backboard and in. On a break.
All right, we are back, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Cam's Corner, Season 3, Episode 25, Episode 93 overall. So still on that road to 100 episodes, but today joining me, a 6'8" forward for the Miami Heat from Portsmouth, Rhode Island, and the host of the Cole Swider podcast, Cole Swider. Cole, thank you for hopping on and joining me.
Hey, no doubt, man. Episode 93, that's impressive. I got my own podcast. We're on like episode 64, so 93, bro. Not a lot of people make it past 20 episodes, never mind 93. So keep up the good work, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. A lot of people have said that either host podcasts or try to get into it, that they don't really get past that 10 or 20 episode mark, and kind of shy because I love doing it. I'm sure. Do you like hosting your own show?
Oh, I love it, man. Yeah, it provides such a different platform for people to come on and talk and just get to know everyone, right? And I think just being able to tell your story in such a different type of setting, right? Because you're part of the media, right? You can only say so much in the media, right? And the conversation with the reporters and all these things, like you never know what's really getting across. So in this type of long form content, it's great to be able to just get your story across and really tell it from your point of view.
Definitely. And for someone like you, like a player, like a courtside interview, it's kind of quick and it's like, on the fly, not really like thought out. For a podcast, you got all the time in the world. You can think of questions and, again, have like the genuine conversation. So I like that aspect of it. And especially someone like you who's from Rhode Island, like myself. That's how I kind of wanted to start this thing off. I just had Drew Carter on, like I told you before we started. So kind of like constructing that interview was like, what do you ask somebody like Drew Carter? And same thing for you. What do you ask somebody like Cole Swider, who's, had so much success at a young age, who's been interviewed a ton of times, but bringing that Rhode Island tie in, I think that's a great way to start. So for you, development as a player in Portsmouth, just run me through that journey heading into high school.
Yeah, man. So first off, my parents started the youth basketball league in my town. So my dad's 6'8", my mom's 6'3". So I was kind of blessed with the genes to start just to play the game. My dad played at Fordham University. My mom played at University of New Hampshire. So I would say from the second I was born, a ball was put in my hands from my father. Both my parents obviously loved the game. They started the youth league in town. And kind of like Dan Mazzulla, I know you talk about Dan a lot, like how big he was in the town of Johnston, of making a lot of kids fall in love with the game of basketball. My parents honestly did a lot of the same things, right? So we started Portsmouth Youth Basketball, started the Portsmouth Travel Program, and it's kind of blossomed into what it is now. And we won, I think, 3 state championships in the past 5 years for Portsmouth High School in Division II, and this year we made a run in Division I. So you see the benefits playing off. But yeah, so going back to me, my parents started the youth basketball league when I was in second grade, third grade, and after that I was just in the gym all the time. My dad always had gym access for me, so getting in the gym and really just falling in love with the grind of getting better. I think one of the stories that I always tell is that after my third grade season, after my season was over, I started crying. And I was begging my parents to play AAU basketball. I was like, please let me play AAU. Please. This is like in third grade. You know what I mean? Like this is, I'm playing up on a 5th grade team. And that's when I kind of knew I loved the game of basketball. And I wanted to be like the sport that I continued and followed my passion with. Yeah.
So heading into high school, obviously you went to St. Andrews. For those that know Cole from Rhode Island, coming from Portsmouth, did you ever have like any second thoughts of deciding to go there? Because obviously playing for like the public school is the route a lot of athletes take, but a school in Rhode Island in particular, like Hendricken or like LaSalle, like those are like the types of powerhouse schools that kids go to. Did you have any second thoughts of going to St. Andrews?
So I went to Portsmouth High School my freshman year, and Andrew Stravitz, who was a big role model of mine, he played at Butler University, played overseas for a couple of years, first team All Big East player. He went to Cushing Academy after his sophomore year at Portsmouth High School. He won a state championship and went to Cushing Academy. Obviously, ended up going and being a big time player. So, kind of seeing his route, he kind of showed me the blueprint of how to get to high major Division I basketball. So, when I saw him go to Cushing, I did my freshman year at Portsmouth High School. I had a good freshman year. I think I averaged like 18, 19 points a game. And then Coach Hart was recruiting me at St. Andrews. And at that time, they had Bonzie Colson going to Notre Dame. They had Andre Berry, who ended up playing at University of Rhode Island. They had Chance Ellis, who ended up playing at New Mexico State. They had Henry Bolden with Utah State. They had all these high high talented Division I guys, and I was like, all right, if I'm gonna make it, I think this would be the place for me to go. And it was 30 minutes away from my house. It's in Barrington, which is close to Portsmouth. So I was able to commute there, able to live at home, able to still see all my friends. So it was a perfect fit. And then if you ever met Coach Mike Hart, New England Hall of Fame basketball coach, has over 600 wins, you'd want to play for him too. People say he looks like Chris Farley, but one of the best basketball minds I've ever been around. And he's just a legend, man. Just an absolute legend. So was able to go to St. Andrews, and my freshman year I didn't really play that much. So I went from playing a lot at Portsmouth High School to coming off the bench and not really playing that much as a freshman. Sophomore year, still came off the bench, was the leading scorer, but came off the bench. Coach Hart made me earn everything, man. The junior, senior year, I was able to start picking up some offers, and obviously ended up choosing Villanova first. But honestly, high school basketball was an amazing experience for me. Man, I had the best experience at St. Andrews. If people don't know St. Andrews, it's a small school, 200 kids. So you really get immersed into the culture of St. Andrews School. And I was in dance class, I was in plays, I was doing morning, like everything that you could do at St. Andrews, I was trying to be involved in. And honestly, unbelievable experience I had there.
Yeah, my good friend Kaylin Zalewski played women's ball there for her freshman, sophomore year.
I know Kaylin, yeah.
Yeah, I don't never get the chance to go see her play there, but I've been watching her play a lot at the college level at Dartmouth, so it's been a cool experience. But for you, like the opportunities that St. Andrew presented you, like what opportunities do you feel like you wouldn't have got if you didn't go there, if you went somewhere else?
Well, first off, when you're playing at that level, like I forgot to mention, like when I was there, I was playing against Terrell Brown, who ended up at Pittsburgh, Aaron Wheeler, who was at Purdue, like all these Division I guys. So my freshman year, Fred Hoiberg's walking in the gym. Like Dan Hurley's walking in the gym. Like all these high major Division I coaches are walking in the gym to watch these guys. They see a young freshman who's 6'5", kind of still growing into his body and all his potential. All of a sudden, I'm starting to get interest from these schools at an early age because they're coming in to watch other guys. And that wasn't happening at Portsmouth High School. It doesn't really happen at any high schools in Rhode Island. I think we have a lot of talent in Rhode Island. And I think we're starting to see that now with Tyler Kolick, with even guys like Tedrick Wilcox and DeAndre Dominguez. And we have a lot of Division I guys, but all those guys had to go to prep schools to kind of be seen, right? So I think having that opportunity to be seen by all these coaches was such an unbelievable experience. And it got my name out there. And then Coach Hart has every single college coach in the country knows Coach Hart. So having those connections and then combining that with playing BABC in Boston with Leo Papille, who's obviously a legend in his own right, it kind of gave me the platform to be seen by a lot of schools, a lot of recruiting services, and put me on the map to be obviously a top 100 player, but also being a highly sought after recruit.
Yeah, you talk about Coach Hart a lot, and someone like me, like I talk about Dan a lot.
Yeah,
I'm sure you were close with Dan as well. I want to know if you had any stories about Dan that you'd like to share before I ask you the next question. Like I wanted to ask you about like your mentors and stuff, but any Dan stories pop in your head when you hear his name?
Yeah, man, I'm getting chills just thinking about Dan. Dan was an unbelievable human being, man. I obviously played with Justin for BABC, and him and my dad were basically the only parents that traveled to every single tournament. So Dan would pick us up in his car, and we go up to Boston, or my dad would pick up Justin. We go up to Boston, and funny story, man. I don't think I've told a lot of people this, but we're driving from Boston, Massachusetts to Georgia to play in the Peach Jam, and it's like a 16-hour, 17-hour drive. And Dan was like, "All right, I'm not going to drive all 17 hours. I'm going to let you guys split up the car ride, right?" So he drove probably the first like 6-7 hours, and I was like, "All right, I'll go ahead. I'll take the next 3." So I'm driving, and I start listening to some music, whatever. I don't know if I hit the side of the road or if I hit like the tire just popped on me. So now I'm pulling over the side of the road. Dan's going crazy on me. This and that,
Is
right?
Dan's car?
So this is a rental car.
Oh, okay.
This is a rental car, yeah. So ended up like getting the tire slashed, and then the side of the car is all ripped up or whatever. We end up having to go to like this like tire shop at like 2 a.m, like total shit show.
Yeah.
But Dan, like after that, we got back on the car, and he drove for another hour. Then another one of our teammates just started driving. Like he didn't even care. He was like, all
Mhm.
right, this is part of it. And then I was like, Dad, like we gotta like take care of it. And of course, when Dan got back to Johnson, he had one of his guys fix it, and it was all good. But like Dan was just unbelievable human being. The amount of people that he paid for, like meals and everything on the road, and took care of people, and um, the stories that he has, man. I remember talking to him about he used to coach Rhode Island Breakers back in the day when Joe was playing, and they played against BABC, and him and Leo almost got into a fist fight, and after that they had like this mutual respect for each
I
other,
heard that
right? So like,
story. Yeah.
yeah, so like Dan is a legend, man. It was so sad when he passed away, because of how close we were to him, and obviously Justin's climbing his way up through the coaching ranks, and Joe's obviously doing what he's doing, and I think that has a lot to do with the values and the toughness that Dan instilled in them.
Yeah, and to see that where Joe is obviously, and like someone like you and David and people that have made names for themselves out of Rhode Island, it still like doesn't feel real to like see it on TV.
Yeah,
Especially somebody like Joe, like leading the Celtics. Like it's every
unreal.
time I see him on TV, like it always makes me think of Dan, obviously, and he played such a huge role in my life. I met him sixth grade. I got cut, and he pulled me over aside, and he was like, "Oh, keep trying, keep trying." Seventh grade, I ended up making it, and I played up till like my 11th grade year. That's when he got sick, and then senior year, he still came to every game. He was sick. You could tell like the medicine was getting to him. He was like gaining
Yeah,
weight, but he came to every home game, came to every away game. Um, and then that like a month after, yeah, because it was in April, like a month after he passed away. But um, coming up on 4 years, which is crazy. And
wild, man.
a year ago was when I premiered the documentary, which is still sick. Um, so yeah, a lot of memories to think about when you think of Dan and the players that have came out of Rhode Island for sure. But did you have anybody that resembled him growing up?
Yeah, my father first and foremost. My dad. I tell this story all the time, man. When I was in seventh grade, I'm coming back from an AAU tournament. I was probably the best player or second best player on our AAU team at the time, Rhode Island Hawks, which is a lot of
Mm.
guys played for back in the day. Um, Playing for Rhode Island Hawks, I actually had 0 points in a game, and we had one of like our one of my friends. His name is Andrew Font. He was in the backseat of the car. And my dad didn't talk to me the whole entire ride home, right? So we drop off Andrew. Andrew's like a 5 minute drive away. We pull up into my driveway, and I'm like, so you're not going to talk to me? He's like, well, I guess we're gonna have to start saving for college. This is so I start crying. I'm all a mess, but like stuff like that, like it drove me, man. Like my father was an unbelievable motivator. He showed me what working hard was every single day. Um, he's one of those guys who has gotten laid off from his job, but a week later he has another job, and he just constantly has shown me the way. My mom, same way. My mom is a really hard worker. She's the type of mom that will go to three of her kids' games in three different states in 3 days,
Mm.
and then she'll fit in three work events around just to make sure that she's there for us. And I mean, both my sisters, I love them. Kylie is at Villanova. She's playing on the team. Courtney's at Richmond. She's playing on the team, and both of them didn't really play a lot this year. My mom probably went to 3/4 of their games just to support them and be there for them. And so just to see that on a day in and day out basis just shows me what it is to really work hard. And then obviously I've had great mentors and coaches, and my BABC coaches, Sean Brown and Paul Durkee Sr. Were great role models for me. They really showed me how to play the game of basketball. And then I had great college coaches as well. Obviously Jay Wright, Jim Boeheim,
Mm.
but then like the assistant coach that you really create those really close relationships to, Jerry McNamara, who just got the job at Siena. So just stuff like that, man. I've had a lot of great people in my life, a lot of great influences, and I think all of them have a little piece. Like they say, it takes a village, right? So
Mm.
I've definitely had a great village around me to get to where I'm at today.
Yeah, and that support staff that shows throughout the accolades you've been able to acquire throughout your not even getting into college yet. 4-star recruit coming out of high school, Gatorade
Yeah,
Player of the Year as a junior, and then you come back senior year averaging 30 and 10. So
yeah,
schools like that were on your radar, like Syracuse, Xavier, Duke, all those schools, and Villanova, like you said, was the first school that you went with before transferring to Syracuse. But that
yeah.
decision making, just give me your mindset at that time, senior year, deciding to go to Villanova.
Yeah, man. Obviously, like you said, I had a lot of great options to choose from, and it just felt like the right decision at the time. There was no real like oh, like I'm going to Villanova. Obviously, like the style of play, playing for a Hall of Fame coach, um, the amount of pros that they've sent to the NBA is 5 hours away from home. They play in the Big East. They get to play home at Providence. All those things played a factor. But I think it was just a feeling like, oh, like I want to go to Villanova. I want to play there, and I want to play for Coach Wright. And at the time, like you don't really think of anything negative happening, right? You just think of all the positives. And being a high school kid, you're a top 40 player in the country, and I was just thinking of that and thinking I was going to go in there and kill it. And yeah, so Villanova was my first option, and I really liked my time there. I thought we were a really good team. I got to be a part of three top 10 teams when I was there. Obviously, played with really great players, but a lot of NBA guys when I was at Villanova. So it was a good experience.
Yeah, and what's one story you think that I guess defines your Villanova experience when you think back?
Man, that's a tough one. I think it's all those days in the gym when I wasn't seeing the results that I wanted to see. Right. I think a lot of guys. I spent 3 years at Villanova, and my 3 years they weren't like I was starting and I was seeing all the success that I wanted to see. I really wanted to work at Villanova, and I think just the day in, day out process of seeing Coach Wright work, seeing Sadiq Bey and Jeremiah Robinson Earl and Colin Gillespie and Jermaine Samuels and all these great players who ended up making it to the NBA, seeing how they worked and seeing the process that went into like being a big time program. And I would say this, like I haven't seen or I haven't heard anything differently on the defensive side of basketball than what I heard in college. So I was really well prepared when I came into the NBA of knowing the terminology, all the defenses that we played at Nova, we play in the NBA. So I think all those things really played a role in my development, and I think I learned how to be a pro at Villanova. I say this all the time, like being at Villanova is like being a part of the military, like body fat every Monday, hydration test every single day before practice. Everything you eat is organic. They take your phones the night before a game. They test you on the scouting report in the hotel the night before the game. Everything is just built towards winning. And when you have a Hall of Fame coach like Coach Wright, it's easy to follow. And you really like stay in line. You learn how to be professional.
Did the high school level prepare you for that, like mentally too? Like, I mean, like you said, like Villanova really helps you prepare. So obviously Syracuse for the NBA. Did the high school level prepare you for that college experience?
I don't really think you can simulate what college basketball is like because you go from being the best player your whole entire life to now you're amongst guys who are 4 and 5 star players, and the culture that Coach Wright ran was very different than a lot of college basketball cultures. So I think one thing that Coach Hart did was he showed me how to play. He showed me how to move without the basketball and showed me how to be an elite scorer. And obviously I averaged 30 points a game as a senior in high school. And that was a lot to do with how Coach Hart taught me just to be like a relentless scorer, relentless attitude. And I think those principles and morals is what has gotten me to where I'm at today in terms of like no conscience, go out there and be a killer. And a lot of those things are from Coach Hart and him giving me that opportunity, that confidence just to go out there and be myself and play my game. And those 3 years at Villanova, I honestly lost that. I was just trying to be perfect. I wanted to work. I wanted to be on the court at all times, and I kind of lost that killer. Because when you're thinking about things on the court, I don't know if you've been through this, but when you're thinking about it on the court constantly, you can't really react and be the best version of yourself. And at Villanova, in those 3 years, I felt like I wasn't doing that. When I got to Syracuse, it took me about like 10, 15 games to get back to like that mindset. Like Coach Boeheim used to say all the time, man, he's like, sometimes you have to be dumb to play basketball, son. You have to be dumb. Like you have an open shot, shoot it. you can get by a defender, just go by him, son. You know what I mean? Like and when you break it down like that, because everything at Villanova is like everything's complicated. Everything is this and that. Like you have to be on your shit at all times. And then at Syracuse, Coach Boeheim was like at the end of the day, players make plays and players win the game. So go out there and make plays. Like don't be afraid to mess up, because when you're afraid to mess up, that's when you do mess up. So I think Coach Hart definitely prepared me in that sense. And then obviously the mindset that he helped instill in me has helped me get back to that player that I am today.
Yeah, I can't compare my high school experience to yours, but being able to be coached by Dan, like he used to always say, keep it simple, stupid. So like
Yeah, exactly.
every single day he would say that. So like if I'm in my head, like I mean, like for my game, I was always like a catch and shoot kind of guy, like catch the ball, like
Yeah,
one
yeah,
pump fake, one dribble, that's my shot. But like,
yeah,
you know, if I miss a few shots in a row, I would always get like hesitant to shoot it again, and he'd be the guy in my
exactly.
ear being like, "Don't." He'd give me the green light to keep shooting, keep shooting, keep shooting. So, when you break it down like that, the game is so simple, but yet so hard. You know what I mean? That jump from high school to college, now to the NBA, and like you talk about, you
Yeah,
spent those 3 years at Nova, and it just wasn't clicking, right? Like something was off. But you know, you started to start like that third year, and then again, we talk about like the Syracuse numbers. You played all 33 games, started all
yep,
33. But at
yeah.
Nova, when was that moment when you realized you wanted to change and you wanted to finish your college career somewhere else?
Man, honestly, I always thought I was going to finish my career at Villanova, and when they passed the transfer portal rule where you're eligible immediately to just go and play,
Yeah.
that honestly was the first time I thought about transferring. Um, and I felt after my last year, I'd kind of like I saw a lot of these guys are coming back for fifth years, and Caleb Daniels was coming back, Colin West was coming back, Jermaine Samuels was coming back, Brandon Slater was coming back. Almost the whole entire team was coming back, so I didn't really see where I could kind of expand my role and expand the player that I needed to be to make it to the NBA. So I sat down with my family, sat down with my parents, my high school coach, Coach Hart, one of my trainers, and we basically just broke it down like, is Villanova the place for me to expand my role and grow? We decided it wasn't, and then I just decided to put my name in the transfer portal, and that honestly was the best thing I could have done. And it if it was a normal college basketball experience that like it had been the previous 10 years, I probably would have graduated from Villanova. But we had the COVID situation, we had the transfer portal, you can go and just play right away. So it opened up my options, and Syracuse was probably my second choice coming out of high school, and it was the best choice I could have made.
Yeah, and Syracuse was a school that showed interest from the jump. Like you talk about the
Yeah.
schools that showed interest right out of high school. You know, it was Xavier, Duke, and again, of course, Villanova. But Syracuse was one of those schools. Like, what made you choose Nova over Syracuse at that time?
Man, like I said, it was just a feeling. You know what I mean? Like I was on campus and I just felt like, man, like I could just see myself being here. And it was nothing against Syracuse. And honestly, Syracuse was probably a better style of play for me to go in there and be successful. But I just felt like Villanova was the best place for me to be. And I took a lot of values from Villanova, and I don't necessarily like regret going to Villanova, but it definitely propelled me to be the player I am today. But Syracuse was just such a better style of play for me to be the best version of myself. And Coach Boeheim's coaching philosophy just going out there and just being yourself and not overcoaching at times, and just being able to play with a clear mind and play the way that I've always known how to play was the best way for me to get to where I'm at.
Yeah, you talk about mindset a lot. The first few days on like the campus of Syracuse, getting used to the system and things like that. How much different was it from your first day at Villanova? Like, how much of a change did you already see? Like, could you
Yeah.
feel like this was going to be like the year that you could finally break out?
Yeah, man. No, the first day I was there, I was like, it just felt like it was home.
Yeah.
Um, at Villanova, everything is revolved around the team. And in the summer, it's team workouts and it's team lifts, and everyone does the same things, right? And at Syracuse, the summer was all about improving as an individual. So we did all individual workouts. We played 5-on-5. You were able to really like expand your game and grow your game, and it wasn't all about just the team development, right? And that was huge for me because at the time I felt like I had lost some of like my ball skills, like dribbling the basketball, shooting with no conscience, like all those things, right? And at Syracuse, I was able to get that back during that summer. And Jerry McNamara is obviously, I think he's one of the best skill developers in the country when it comes to just individual development. So I got to work out with him the whole entire summer, the whole entire fall, and really just expanded my game and got back to like just feeling like a basketball player again. At Villanova, sometimes you feel like a robot, right? And we were all connected on the same page, and that's why everyone was able to be so successful at Villanova. But at Syracuse, it was like Coach Boeheim was like, all right, Cole, Buddy, Joe, you guys are shooting the basketball. Jimmy, you're going to post up. Jesse, you're going to catch lobs and do what you do. Everyone else, you guys have to mesh around these guys while they do those things, right? And Coach Boeheim was very clear on roles. He was very clear on how many minutes you were going to play, and it just created like just this no thought, just go out there and play type of environment. And that was different from Villanova, because at Villanova there was a lot of thought, and then also like the zone defense compared to man-to-man defense was also different as well.
Did the competition feel any different? I mean, it's Division I basketball all around, but obviously in a different conference. Did anything seem different, like in game?
I mean, the ACC and the Big East are two of the best leagues in the country. So
Right.
the ACC is more of a offensive league, I would say. It was more high scoring, more athleticism, more just overall, I would say NBA. It felt more like the NBA.
Yeah.
The Big East is just a freaking bloodbath, man. It's physical. Every head coach, like I think the coaching in the Big East is some of the best in the country. Like they're able to get some of the get the most out of their players, and like the scouting is a different level. You play every single team twice,
Yeah.
so you know every team's set. You know every single thing about the other team by the second time you play them, and then you play a lot of these teams a third time in the Big East tournament. You can play 4 of these teams in the Big East tournament, so you're playing these teams 2-3 times a year. And when it came to like the wars that we had against like UConn and Butler and Seton Hall and all these teams, like it was tough, man. But those games be like 62-60.
Yeah.
At Syracuse, we were a top 15 offense, getting like 80 points a game, man. So that was a totally different style of play, and it was fun to play in.
Yeah, you talked about those fifth-year guys too from Villanova that were coming back, and you didn't really see
Yeah.
yourself like, I guess, having like your own kind of role, like you said you had at Syracuse. But you had that. Did you have an extra year of eligibility?
I
No?
did. So I had my 5th year of eligibility, but after my senior year, Coach Boeheim brought me in, and he was like, "Man, I think you've done enough to go." And
Yeah.
at the time, there wasn't like this like huge NBA buzz around me, but I was 6'9". I averaged 14-7. I had shot 40% from 3. So there was a decent amount of buzz of me being able to like you could see it, but it wasn't like, all right, Cole's gonna get drafted type of thing. So Coach Boeheim brought me in. He's like, "Man, I'm bringing in like all these young guys." We had 6 freshmen committed to Syracuse at the time. Buddy and Jimmy were obviously leaving, and those were like 2 of my best friends. And he was like, "It's not going to be like how it was this year. So you can come back. I would love for you to come back, but I think it's best for you to test yourself at the pro level, and I think you're ready." I talked to GMAC. I talked to all these guys, and honestly, I wanted to come back to Syracuse for a 5th year initially. But Coach Boeheim was like, "No, I think you're ready." So put my name in the draft, signed with the agent, and I was blessed enough to go in there and kill. And Coach Boeheim was right. It was time. It was the right time for me to go, and just very thankful that he gave me that confidence just to go and believe in myself and go up for that NBA process.
Yeah. How do you feel like that senior year in particular? Like, probably, I mean, obviously your best year in college basketball, but you got those reps.
Yeah.
Like, just looking at those numbers, like we said, all 33 games, you started all 33, averaging double
Yeah.
figures and shooting the best in your college career from beyond the arc. Like, how did that
Yeah.
senior year prepare you for the NBA workouts in the summer, and then like, coming up and with the draft and everything like that?
Yeah, I think Coach Boeheim plays like a pro style offense. We ran a lot of sets for shooters, right? So like Buddy and I were getting like the majority of the sets. And that's exactly how I've played in the NBA so far. Coming off of wide screens, coming off of staggers, and like all these actions that we ran, and we ran a lot of dribble handoff stuff, and that prepared me just to be the role that I'm going to be in the NBA. Right? I was obviously able to do a little bit more ISO wise, and be able to put the ball on the floor a little bit more. In college, just as Coach Boeheim gave us that freedom, but in the NBA, a lot of things that I did at Syracuse, it translated. So when these scouts were able to see that I'm 6'9", I shot 40% from 41% from 3 for 2 years in college, and I think that kind of gave people an image. Then it was up to me to go in these pre-draft workouts and just show that I could do that again. So I felt like it was just the perfect situation for me to walk into. I played, like you said, I played 35 minutes a game, started all 33 games, was able to play in one of the best leagues in the country. And honestly, I think what put me on the map was one of my last games of the season. We played at North Carolina, and that was the best game of my college career. I had 36 at Carolina, and they ended up going to the national championship game. So having that on my resume kind of put me in the eyes of a lot of NBA people, and the ACC is one of the most scouted conferences in the country just because Duke and UNC and a lot of the great programs that are in the ACC. So it was great to be a part of that and play that year for Syracuse.
Yeah, what goes into like contacting coaches and stuff like that with your tapes and making sure that you're on their radars? Or was it kind of just like you said, there wasn't as much buzz around your name as you expected, but obviously it worked out in the end. You signed with the Lakers, come draft night. But what's that process like, reaching out to coaches, making sure that you're on their radar?
Yeah, so first I signed with an agent. So Leo Papillo was really close with an agent named Bill Duffy. And Bill Duffy represents Luka Doncic, DeAndre Ayton, RJ Barrett. He has Anthony Edwards. Like, he has a lot of guys throughout the NBA. And Leo was really close to him. Leo was like, "Hey, Cole, you're gonna sign with Bill Duffy," and I was like, "Perfect. I'm signing with Bill. I trust you, Leo." So Leo put me in touch with Bill. Bill had a day-to-day agent that I was going to work with. His name is Nico Filipovic, and Nico really just put my name out there, man. He's contacted every single team, every single GM, saying that obviously he's representing me. I'm available. He would love to come into your building and work out in front of you. 6'9", shot 41% from three. These are the numbers. These are the analytics. This is why he could fit in the NBA. So honestly, it's really up to picking a good agent at that point. The agent kind of sets the stage, and then after that, I got invited to a couple showcase events. So I got invited to the PIT, which is the Portsmouth Invitational, which is the senior showcase for the NBA teams. And when you go to the PIT, it's all seniors, and you're playing in front of 150 NBA personnel. So I got to play in front of 150 NBA personnel. I played well, and then I got hurt. So I got hurt in the second game, and I was playing really well throughout the tournament. I think I would have won MVP if I kept on playing. But I obviously got hurt in that game. And then throughout the rest of the process, I kind of got my name started in there, but I didn't get invited to the G League Combine. So when I didn't get invited to the G League and NBA Combine, I'm like, shoot, man, like I should have went back to school, this and that. But I knew the emphasis was on the workouts, right? And I got to work out for 12 NBA teams, and then I got called back to 3 teams. So I got called back to the Lakers, Hawks, and Bucks for a second workout. So I knew I was in a pretty good position come draft night when it came to hopefully signing a 2-way contract.
Yeah, and what was that feeling like, draft night? Your name's not called like in the draft, but again, we talked about how the Lakers signed you later that night, and the media was there. ABC6 was there. My guy Ian Steele.
Ian Steele, the man.
My buddy Kyle, I think my friend Kyle Stanley was an intern there. I think he was with him, looking back at it. But just that feeling on draft night, what was that anticipation like?
Yeah, man. So I knew I wasn't going in the first round, and I knew there was probably like a 75% chance I wasn't getting drafted. I knew there was an outside chance that the Bucks had the last pick in the draft, and they might have drafted me. But I knew that my name, like my hope was to get a 2-way on draft night. You can get drafted and still get a 2-way contract. Like they could put you on a 2-way contract. But my hope was to just get a 2-way contract on draft night. So talking to Nico and my agent Nico and Bill, the whole entire thought was, all right, Lakers, Hawks, Trailblazers, Kings, and Bucks are the 5 teams that we're targeting for on draft night. These are the 5 teams that are the most interested. They've contacted us and said that you're on the radar, blah, blah, blah. So going into the night, after the first round, my agent calls me. I'm like, all right, what's going on? He was like, man, like I'm contacting the Lakers. They have the 35th pick. I'm contacting the Hawks. They have the 44th pick. Contacting the Kings. They have the 51st pick. I'm contacting Blazers 57th pick, and the Bucks have the 58th pick. So I'm just holding my breath. I'm hoping I'm going to get drafted. The Lakers end up choosing Max Christie. The Hawks, whatever. They all end up choosing guys. And then I get a call at the 56th pick. I get a call from Nico. He's like, Lakers want you on a 2-way. Yes or no? I'm like, yes, please. Like, so I hang up the phone. I have everyone around, all my family, my friends, some of my AU coaches, my high school coach, just all the people that really helped me in my journey. And I start breaking down crying. I'm just like, man, I just signed. I'm going to sign with the Lakers on a 2-way contract. And everyone started going crazy. And that was just an awesome night, man. We're all at the house in my backyard. And obviously then Ian showed up and did that interview and just didn't feel real, man. It was an unbelievable night. And after that, we started getting the tequila going.
Yeah.
That was awesome. But getting a call from Rob Pelinka shortly thereafter, getting a call from Darvin Ham there shortly thereafter, and it just felt like it didn't feel real at first. And then talking to them, I was like, wow, this is unbelievable, man. It was just a truly, truly special night. Honestly, probably couldn't have gone better. Like LeBron James has always been my favorite player growing up, and having that night, realizing like, all right, like, I'm gonna be in the same building and play with LeBron was an unreal feeling.
Yeah, and that like it's so surreal. Like for someone like me, like obviously like, I didn't have that journey, but like
Yeah,
I experienced it like with Alex Clemmy. So a Middletown native, got drafted in the MLB this year. I
yeah,
was working with the news, so that's when I met you at David's event over in the summer.
yep.
We had the opportunity to go to his house on draft night, and he obviously didn't know where he was going to go, and he was anticipating like second round, like mid second round, whatever it was. And then so Sam, the reporter that I was with, he had to leave, and I came separate. So he's like, "Cam, can you stay?" And
Wow.
I'm like, "Yeah, I'll stay." Like he's like, "You got to film his reaction, all that stuff, and then talk to him after like it happens." And I'm like, "What if it doesn't happen?" And it's like, then you got to
Yeah,
go.
you just got to bite it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm there like all night. We got there around like 6. I met him there at 6 after like my other job, and it was like 8, 9 o'clock. He's like, "Hey, we gotta go. We gotta go cover something else." I'm like, "All right." So I'm sitting there in a room full of people I don't know, and then like
Yeah.
11:30 comes, and Alex's name gets called, and he got drafted by the Guardians, and then I filmed that reaction, we interviewed him. So I'm assuming that you had that same exact feeling, like your whole entire support staff's
Yeah.
around you. All that stuff happens. The media is there. Like, it's a crazy feeling. Like that first day on the job. Like, what was that? What was that feeling like? That you're like, all right, I'm an LA Laker.
Yeah, no. So it's funny you say that, going back to the story you just told, because Ian asked me, he was like, yo, like, can I come to the event? And I was like, Ian, like, I don't know where I'm gonna go. Like, I could not be happy, like this and that. Like you can be around, like, so if something happens, like, so I think he might have been waiting like the parking lot of CVS or something, like
Yeah.
waiting to see something on his phone to see like if I got called or anything like that. And next thing you know, my high school coach was on the phone with Ian, and he's like, "Can Ian come? Can Ian come?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it, let's do it." But it's so funny because like you said, like you guys are a part of the story as well, and you guys want to
Mm.
see the reaction, the people around, and everything like that. So it's just funny to hear like both sides of it, right? Like you're around this kid, you don't know any of the people around him,
Right.
and then Ian, I've obviously known Ian for a while. He's been covering me since I was in ninth grade, right?
Mm.
And I was like, Ian, man, like, because he interviewed me the day before the draft and put out a story on me, like, hey, like, see, these are some of the teams that are interested in Cole. Like, look out for him. And then obviously he was able to catch that moment with my family and obviously do that quick interview after the draft. So it was great, man.
Yeah, I was
But
like sitting in the corner like of the kid's house, like just with my iPhone. Like, all
yeah,
right, when's he gonna get drafted? Because they're like, oh, because I remember he got a call, but it wasn't with the team. Like I don't know if it was like a prank call or something, but they were like,
whipping
oh
out your phone.
yeah. I'm like, oh, he's getting a call. Like I gotta get it out, and then like, it didn't happen. Then he gets another call, and like I saw his dad like giving him a hug. So I'm like, all right, it's gonna happen. I'm not gonna film that, but I'm gonna like wait till they get to the couch and like who it's gonna be. Then they finally did it, and I had that same kind of similarities with Ian. That moment was like, all right, now I get to go home. But I was like, I was a part of that kid's like one of his most memorable moments in his entire life. So
Oh, 1,000%, man.
yeah.
And going to your next question, the first day on the job, right? So shortly thereafter, my mom, my dad, and myself, I think 3 days after, we flew out to LA. And then we got a tour of the facility again. They were obviously able to see everything. I went in and I worked out, and I just remember being like a super cool moment of like, all right, like wearing the Lakers gear and
Hmm.
just being in the building of like, all right, I could call this home for a little bit at least, right? And after that, you start getting ready for summer league right away. So summer league is like the first thing that's right after the draft. So we had summer league practice probably 4 or 5 days after I got signed by the Lakers on draft night, and that was the next experience. So it was really cool just to obviously sign that contract, be with Rob Pelinka and Darvin Ham, and kind of get that process going.
Yeah, LeBron was at one of those first summer league games, and that's like kind of like your first
Yeah.
taste of real NBA
Mhm.
competition. So your first interaction with LeBron James, like that's kind of crazy to say, but what was that like? It was probably either that day or like day before. But just talk about your first interaction with him.
Yeah, it was actually the day after that. So he came to the game, and the day after we had a practice at like a local high school in Las Vegas. But it was like the Lakers like rented out this gym for like 2 weeks because during that time, all the guys come and they watch the summer league games, but they also want to come and work out with the coaches.
Yeah.
So LeBron came, and he was there before us, and like had just finished his workout. And when I walked in the gym, I saw like all of his stuff sitting there, and I look back, and LeBron's talking to like Darvin and Rob Pelinka in like the back, and they're having like a little conversation back there. So I kind of put my stuff like right near his stuff.
Yeah.
So I left, got my ankles taped, and when I came back, LeBron was sitting in the chair right next to my stuff. And as I'm walking over, he's like, "Yo, what's up, Cole?" And I'm like, did he just call me by my first name? Like, this is the guy that I've like looked up to my whole entire life, my favorite player and everything like that. And he knew me by my first name, right? It wasn't like, "Oh, what's up, man? How you doing?" Like, it was like, "What's up, Cole?" And then dapped him up, asked him, like, I'm a big question guy. If I'm ever around someone who's been very successful, like I'm constantly asking questions. I have a podcast, right? So
Right.
so started like I asked him like a couple questions, and that was the first introduction to him. But the one thing about LeBron, man, is that he's just so open. Like, you can ask him anything, and he's going to try and give you the best answer possible. And he's just so knowledgeable and so attuned, right? Like, there will be days where you can tell, like, all right, like, don't mess with LeBron today, right? There's things going on, but like 95% of the time, like he's there to answer questions. He's talking on the plane. He's just like a little kid who just loves playing basketball, and he's obviously been doing it for a long time and been very, very successful, and in my opinion, the greatest player of all time. So just seeing the work that he put in and everything like that on a day-to-day basis was unbelievable.
What's the best piece of advice he gave you during your time there?
I think just being able to stay present. I think he has an uncanny ability of being able to stay present and being able just to, like, he's so smart that I always say this, like, Jimmy Butler's the same way. Like, LeBron James and Jimmy Butler and like all these top guys are so smart that sometimes they don't understand why guys can't do what they do physically, or they don't understand why like how do you not see that rotation, or how do you not see that play on the court? And it's like, there's like 5 people in the world who can make that play, and you guys are 2 of them. You know what I mean? And I think being able to stay present, stay in the moment. And I think the mind. He showed me how much the mind is in the game, right? Because he's obviously 39. He's still one of the most athletic guys in the league at 39, which doesn't make sense. But how he's been able to grow his game, stay consistent, and just dominate the game, like playing like chess on the court, it just showed me so much. So obviously I learned so much things on the basketball court from him, but I learned like how important the mind is. The mind is in the game, and how far, if you're a smart basketball player and you really study the game, how far that can really take you.
Yeah, and you signed that too. You played in a few games with the Lakers, but your talents really shined in the G League with South Bay.
Yeah.
Looking back at some of like the stats, your career night, you had 37 points, 10 rebounds, and 8 assists. Just talk about that game as a whole. You know what I mean? Your first really breakout game in the NBA as a professional basketball player. Like, how was that for you?
No, it was great, man. I got to play in the preseason with the Lakers a lot, man. And then after the preseason, I had a stress reaction in my foot that kept me out like the first like 8 weeks of the season. So during that time, I'm trying to get back and recover and everything like that. But by the time I got back, the Lakers were in such a tough spot. They weren't really trying anything new. You know what I mean? And I got to play in a couple games. Got to play 25 minutes in the Nuggets game, and that was a great experience. Just being able to play against like the eventual champions, and that kind of showed me like I can play in this league, right? But the second half of the year, I got a lot of experience in the G League, and through that time, like the one thing about the G League experience for me was I was on a minute restriction my first 4 weeks in the G League, so I can only play 20 minutes a game in the G League, and that kind of humbled me because it's like, all right, I'm putting up 8 points, 12 points, 14 points in the G League, where I'm a two-way guy. Like, I should be doing this and that, but it's like just being able to trust the process of a season. Last year really taught me that a lot. Like, there's so many games in the NBA. There's so many games in the G League. Like, if you're like in college, there's only 30 to 35 games. Like, like you covered the URI basketball team this year. Like, every single game is a Super Bowl. It means so much. If you lose a game in November, that could affect you in March.
Right.
Like, that's not the case in the NBA. You could lose a game in November and you forget about it by like the game after that. Like, there's just so many games, and being able to just be fresh mentally each and every night. And like, that's the most impressive part about LeBron. It's like he does it every single night. Jimmy Butler every single night. Bam Adebayo every single night. Like these guys just are able to show up and perform every single night. And I think that's the most impressive part. So last year, the G League really showed me like every single night you have to be prepared to play. And there's so many things that can happen throughout a season that your number is going to be called eventually. And what you do with that opportunity is up to you, and it's up to your preparation and your work. So I felt like that part of the G League season was where I was finally getting healthy, and I was finally starting to reach to where I was before my pre-injury. And I was in shape. I was shooting the ball at a really high clip, and now I was starting, and I earned my starting spot in the G League. My coach Miles Simon was a big believer that even though you're a two-way player, you still need to earn your spot. So I earned a starting spot. I was starting to shoot the ball really well, and then that was a culmination of just all the work that I put up until that point. And then I finished out the G League season on a really high note, just based off of being able to gain the trust of my coaches, my teammates, and then I was just shooting the ball at a really high clip.
Yeah, how do you feel that the Lakers, I guess, lost interest, to like lack of better words? Like you're playing at, you feel like one of like the best parts of your game. You're playing at the top of your game. You feel like personally, but obviously being waived and then being picked up by the Heat, like that process. What was that process towards like the end of the season like?
Yeah, man, it was a shock because I felt like the Lakers they really valued me as a person, and they communicated that to me even when I got waived. It was like, man, like we would love to have you back on a training camp contract, and we would love for you to kind of earn your spot back and this and that. But I think during that time, what you need to do is you need to find a team and a situation that has proven to promote guys, has proven to care about development, and the Miami Heat have done that so many times, time in and time out. They've done that with Duncan Robinson, Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, all these guys who have gone on to be big time players for the Heat and then gotten big time contracts after that. And I think the Miami Heat had like they were the first team to call my agent when I got released. And I felt the interest right away. And the assistant GM, Adam Simon, called me. He's like, man, you're going to have an opportunity to earn a two-way contract. You're going to have an opportunity to come in here and play. You're going to have an opportunity to prove yourself in a 2-month span. So I got released by the Lakers, I think like July, like 24th or 25th. I was in the Miami Heat gym August 3rd, August 4th.
Yeah.
And that was such a big thing for me because for me, I was able to show who I was over a 2.5 month span of like my work ethic, what I'm willing to give up, what I'm willing to sacrifice. Like, I think that's a big thing for the Miami Heat, where some teams just like, all right, do you produce on game night? Great. And that's what we care about. And this works for a lot of teams. The Miami Heat care about the process. They care about the person. They care about the mentality that goes into winning. And that's why we've seen so many of their undrafted guys be successful, because they identify those guys and they identify them at an early age. And those guys end up being their role players, and then those guys end up signing big contracts down the line. So I think the Miami Heat has been a perfect decision for me because the values align. And it reminds me a lot of Villanova too. Like Villanova kind of like introduced me to those values and those core beliefs and the intention that they bring on a day-to-day basis. It's been a great experience, man. So yeah, no, that whole entire process was tough, but at the same time, I couldn't have landed in a better spot.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you. You kind of answered the question, like that jump from being waived and then being signed. It was like a 2 month. It was very very quick. So you were home probably for like a little bit, and then like you're back in Miami. So that day from your first day heading into LA and now heading into Miami, what's the difference there? What are the similarities like?
Yeah, no, I think I had a very different mindset going into Miami. I think being waived, you have a different type of chip on your shoulder, right? And I think I learned a lot as a pro in my first year in LA of like what not to do. You know what I mean? Like I think I learned being around obviously great players what to do, and then obviously being in LA and being in that spotlight of like what not to do. And being in Miami, it's even more distractions. It's there's more things to do, and you're going there, and I think that's part of the thing that the Heat want to see is like, all right, we're putting you up in a hotel for 2 months for free. We're gonna put all of our resources into you. Are you going to go out? Are you going to take advantage of the city? Are like what are your true intentions? Do you want to be a great basketball player, or do you want to be in Miami? And I think during that time I was just so locked in of just going there every single morning with something to prove. And I think those 2 months were two of the best months of my life of just being locked in and focused and change. I really changed my body over those 2 months. And that's another thing. Like like Spo took an interest in me early.
Mhm.
And I think it was one of those things where they had seen me play in the G League and they liked what they saw and they kind of saw the resemblance of Duncan a little bit. And Spo came up to me the first time I met him, and he was like, man, like, how do you like it here so far? I was like, I love it. It's been a great experience. And he's like, what's your body fat at? I'm like, uh, 11.75. Like I was kind of shocked that he asked me that, right?
Mhm.
And he's like, we got to get that down to 7. We got to get that down to 7. And at first, my initial reaction is, Spo, I've tried that before. Like it's been hard for me. I carry a lot of fat in my leg. Like I'm giving him what a normal human being would give him. And then what does he say back to me? He's like, no, you can do it. You'll find a way. If you really want to do it, you'll find a way. And it totally changed my mindset. It's like he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself.
Mm.
Like he saw the potential of like, all right, like if you get down to 7% body fat, you could be a totally different player and you can make it in this league. Like, what are you willing to give up? What are you willing to do? So right after that, I go to the nutritionist. What do I need to do to get down to 7% body fat? And that's a lofty goal. And now I'm around 8.5% body fat. Like I've cut 3.5% body fat. And I can tell the difference. I know why Spo is giving me these challenges, these obstacles, these goals, because getting down to 7% is going to make me the best version of myself. And that's just been the constant message from Spo and the staff this whole entire time. It's like, we'll work with you. This is a year of development. And I kind of think just like that you need to have someone see something in you before you see it in yourself for you to be
Mm.
successful, I think. And that's something that Spo has given to me. And it's not like the day-to-day like talk of like, are you doing this? Are you doing that? Are you doing like he's monitoring me? You know what I mean? Even when I'm not playing, even when I'm not a part of the rotation and everything like that. And I think that's what makes Spo so special and the Miami Heat so special.
Yeah, I mean, not only like just legendary coaches you played for, but again, we talk about LeBron and Jimmy and like Kevin Love, another one, like a lot of NBA
Yeah.
vets you've been around. Like for somebody like me, it's like so cool to see because it makes my vision of my dream like so much more realer, right? Like coming from the same state, the
Yeah.
smallest state in the country. For me, like my dream is to be a broadcaster in the NBA. I see all these young guys doing it, and I'm like, why not me? I've taken all
Yeah.
like the courses in college and like all these other extracurricular things to get to like that point. And I know like the ladder's, only going to keep going up, but like to
Yeah.
see where you're at and to see like all these like memorable moments and these like experiences you've had with these guys, it really opens my eyes too. So I guess my question leading up to that is like someone like Jimmy and LeBron and Kevin Love, what's it been like being around NBA vets and learning from them, not only from the game, but you talk about the mental aspect of it as well.
Yeah, but before I go, man, you're on your way. So
Appreciate that, man. Thank you.
I've seen your TikTok. I've seen some of the stuff that you've been doing, man. You're on your way. I always say like the only person that can limit yourself is you. Like what
100%.
you put in your mind, right? And I think like I've never seen someone truly put everything into their craft, their ability, and not see results, right? You might not see the results that you want, but you're gonna see results. You're gonna keep on climbing, and you'll get there, man. But going
Thank
back
you.
to your question, going back to your question, man, I've learned so much from those guys, and like I told you before, man, I constantly ask questions, and I think Duncan Robinson has been a huge
Mhm.
like person in my life of showing me what it takes to be successful, not only as obviously being a 6'9" shooter, but being like a little bit less athletic, being like I've told him before, like I copied his eating schedule, and like he didn't even know that. Just because
Yeah.
like I'm just like constantly just asked, like just watching him, right? I've copied some of his pregame shooting routines. I've like everything that he does on the defensive side of the basketball, I ask him about because it's like he's been targeted at a high level, and that's the knock on me, right? It's like, can you defend at the NBA? We know you can shoot the basketball. We know that you provide a lot on the offensive end, but can you stay on the floor defensively? And just
Mm.
seeing how Duncan's navigated that has been a huge thing for me. Kevin Love, same way. Kevin Love is probably the best rebounder, one of the best rebounders in NBA history. It's not because he's athletic. It's not because he's this and that. It's like his mind and then being able to read the basketball and being able to read space is why he's the best. That doesn't
Mm.
take talent. That doesn't take skill. That's just working on it, right?
Yeah.
And then when it comes to Jimmy and LeBron, like those guys are such freak athletes. It's hard to learn from them, like how they get stuff done on the court sometimes, because a lot of it's God's gifts that they've been given. But just seeing how they process the game is what I've learned from those guys. Seeing how simple it is for them, but like for me, I got to think about that stuff. You know what I mean? Like I have to, and that's something that I can grow into, of being a basketball savant, but with my skill set, right? So like just being able to try to close the gap any way I can when it comes to God given ability. And obviously, I was given 6'9", being able to shoot the crap out of the basketball and all those God's gifts. But being able just to close the gap and whatever I can just to be able to make it in the league has been my real focus.
Yeah, and it seems like Miami's given you that platform to do so. I mean, you've played in a lot of games so far, and
Yeah.
you know, it's still like the early end of your career, but that night
Yeah,
where you had 5 threes in the preseason versus the Hornets,
Yeah.
probably one of like the better like NBA games you've had preseason, but still like you talked about it in the post game that it was like an NBA or a playoff environment in that game, and it was only preseason. So run me through, I guess, like one, that game, and two, like how much of more opportunities you've had with Miami compared to LA, and how much of growth as a player you've seen now in just these last few months.
Yeah, I think I was so ready for that moment against Charlotte that I was willing to take whatever the results had given me, right? And during that whole entire preseason, I was like, man, I'm physically there, I'm mentally there, and I proved to myself. I felt like during that preseason that I was ready to, like, I can be an NBA player. Like the opportunities might not align, but when I do get those opportunities, I'll be ready, right? And that was an unbelievable experience to have that preseason and be able to shoot the basketball the way I did. And then throughout the season this year, I haven't gotten too many opportunities, right? But I think the other night against the Pelicans, I was able to have my career high of 14 points, 2 rebounds, and I hadn't played an a real NBA game in probably 3-4 months. But I think the mental side of it, I was ready for that moment. Like I felt like I was due. I was due to make some shots. I was due to have an opportunity. I was due for, like, you need certain things to happen in the NBA for you to make it, right? Especially an undrafted guy. And we weren't shooting the ball great at all as a team. And Spo just looked at me. He's like, "All right, cool." and that's Spo will throw you out there just randomly. Like one thing that they do in the NBA is that they have like the rotation sheet. So like before the game, like you pretty much know like when you're going in, how many minutes you're going to play. And then Spo has this thing called plug guys. So plug guys are, if something happens in the game that we're not expecting, those guys will go in and play. So I've been a plug guy for the past like 2-3 weeks because Duncan and Tyler have been hurt. So just being ready for those opportunities, I think I've mentally prepared myself a lot better than I was last year when I did get those few opportunities I got with LA. But I think like I said, it all comes down to the work, man. Just putting the work in on a day-to-day basis, preparing your body, your mind. And I honestly think, like, for me, it's just all about preparing my mind to be ready for those moments. I've had a couple opportunities this year where my mind, I felt like I was a little hesitant, right? And just being able to give yourself up to the results, like knowing like man, I've put in the work, I've done all the things that I've needed to do, I've recovered the right way, I've stretched the right way, I've ate the right way, I put myself in a position where my body's in a great place. Like I haven't, like, knock on wood, like I haven't gotten hurt this year, right? And that's a big thing. Like being healthy and being available is sometimes the best ability you can have. So I think overall I've just been a lot more prepared this year. I think my first year in LA kind of prepared me mentally, just to be ready for those opportunities, even if they're few and far in between.
Yeah, and I'm not in the NBA. I will be in the league one day, but I feel
You
like
will.
we have like a similar mindset in the sense of like if you put that work in, like it's gonna happen. And like I
1,000%.
every single year that I've been through school and high school as well, like playing ball, like it's only gotten like it's like my mindset's never changed. Like I tell everybody on the same, or whoever I'm talking to on the pod or even in like real life, like it's never changed. Like in the sense of like the amount of opportunities that could come my way if I put that work in. Like starting off my first podcast episode with Joe, I was like, you can tell how nervous I was having that first
Yeah.
interview. But now almost 93, like I said at the beginning, almost at 100. It's like kind of like second nature now. So it's like, why not? Like, how come I can't do that? But I can't, you know what I'm saying? Like I can, like it's gonna happen.
Yeah. And bro, you've hit me up a bunch of times to come on the podcast, and you've been
Mm.
very, very like resilient. I respect that, bro. And then that's why, like, you're gonna be successful, because like a lot of people, like, they ask me like, what's like, how do you make it? Like you weren't playing at Villanova, this and that, and like all right, there's obviously days where you don't feel like you're like, man, this isn't gonna work out.
Mm.
Like, but then you like you snap out of it like, no,
Right.
like this is gonna work out. Like I'm gonna make it. Like I'm gonna do whatever it takes. And if it doesn't, and if I don't make it, I've done everything I can in my humanly power for myself to make it.
Mm.
And I think just like the process of getting better, like I I'm a big man of faith. Like I truly believe that it like I try and give God the glory whenever I can, man. Like I truly believe if you do the right things, you continue to follow the path that you've been given, like everything will work out the way it's supposed to. But you can't not work and believe or work really hard and not believe. Like you need to have like both those things go together. And I think just over time, like those results will come. And like I said, like, and if they don't come, then I've done everything I can to put myself in that position for it to come. And it wasn't meant for me anyways.
Yeah, 100%. And now for me, like I'm gonna be drawn because I'm a diehard Knicks fan. Joe's the head coach of the Celtics, and I got to root for you.
Yep.
And you guys are all in the East, so it's like I don't know what I'm gonna do come playoff time. But I just been talking to you. I know, like I said, like I've been hitting you up for a little bit, and I don't want to. I never want to come off as like annoying or like, oh, he still hit me up.
No,
It's
not
just
at
like
all.
trying to be as consistent as possible in like the nicest way. So I appreciate you saying that. And to cap everything off, I'll ask you quick about the podcast, like the mindset going into that. Like, what made you want to get into creating your own show?
Yeah, so I was in LA last year and I would work out from like 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Not working out the whole entire time, but I would get there early, stretch, and do all my things pre-shooting, post shooting practice, post shooting, massage, getting the cold tub, like trying to do everything I could, right? And then around 2 p.m., I'm going back to my apartment and I'm just sitting there from 2 p.m. to like 11, not really doing anything, like across the country from all my friends and family and everything, not really knowing a lot of people. And I was like, all right, what's something I could do that'd be like low stress, where I could just talk to people, and just something to take my mind off of basketball. So I hit up one of my college teammates, Patty Casey, and I was like, hey, would you be interested in like, co-hosting a podcast? Like, I know like this is crazy, but we had previously talked about doing a show, just joking around.
Mm.
He was like, man, I would love that. And he's like, hey, let me hit up like this kid who I know is a producer at Syracuse. Syracuse, as you know, is the best broadcasting school in the country.
Yep.
So there's so many kids who like would want to like help out with the show, like big Syracuse basketball fans and are amazing at the job. So we landed this kid named Adam Lewis, who's done an unbelievable job on our podcast. He produces all the shows. He edits everything for us. He's on every single episode. He does all of our social media. He's a freaking beast, man. And then
Mm.
we have another executive producer named Jake Sheridan who helps out with like he's more of like an ideas guy. We'll come up with stuff to talk about in the episode. And then Patty Casey, my college teammate, has been an amazing co-host, man. And they love the podcast even more than me sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's been a great experience to kind of just talk to everyone and like you said, like having like some of these guys in the episodes have been great. And I think I've learned a lot about some of these guys that I didn't know before, like some
Mm.
of like their stories and just being able to chop it up. And as you said, like I've gotten a lot better with it throughout my time, and I think it's just I want to get into probably broadcast after I'm done playing. So
Mm.
it's great for me to kind of start that process of like, all right, like having your own podcast, interviewing people, understanding what it takes to and what goes into a podcast is really valuable to me.
Yeah, like I'm glad to hear that you guys have like a producer. You guys have all these people like supporting it. That's awesome. I like unfortunately I'm like a one man show. I do all the like the social media. Um, I bought all this equipment. Like I think coming up on like 3 years now in a few
It's
months,
awesome.
which is crazy. But um, as far as like yeah, like everything that goes into it, like conducting interview questions, and for me, like I want to be a broadcaster, so that kind of like all like correlates. So I like
Yeah,
that COVID year, like when everybody was home, I'm like, how can I like get my name out there without having
yeah,
to be somewhere. And like this was it. That's kind of just blew up from there. Not like blew up like nationally or anything like that, but for me, like in Rhode Island, a lot of people know me from doing this, which is it's
yeah.
pretty cool.
No, it's huge, bro. And being able just to like stick to a process
Mm.
is huge. Like my podcast isn't like a huge podcast by any means, but being able to interview people and get reps and as you know, like every single time you can you can interview someone or get a rep at this or understand someone's story or talk to different people, get a nugget here and there. Like that's so valuable. And I've gotten that so many times being a part of the Swider show and just being able to make more relationships and be introduced to more people. And the amount of people that have came up to me when I go back to Syracuse or say like, oh, I listened to your show, I listened to your podcast. Like, what really hit me was I went back to Syracuse last year during All-Star break, and a kid came up to me, and it was something I said on the podcast, like, I live by the 5 Ps. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. And a kid had that as a screensaver on his phone, and he's like, man, I've been listening to your podcast every single week. This is the screensaver on my phone now. And, like, that was like, all right, like, that's all I want to do it for. You know what I mean? If I can motivate one person, if I can make a relationship with one person, if I could, like, understand someone's story a little bit better, then that's the point of it. It's not to get rich. Like that will come down the line if you keep on doing a good job and stay consistent. But that's not the reason why you get into it.
Yeah, no, I wanted to always dig deep into like people's journeys. Like someone like you, like if they were on like, you know, another podcast, say like they'd want to know everything about the NBA. For me, like that stuff is awesome. Like, don't get me wrong, like asking you some questions here and there. But for me and you being both from Rhode Island, I wanted to know, like, you know, obviously we didn't really know each other back then, but to know that journey and how it got you to where you're at from Rhode Island all the way now to Miami, like it's so cool for me to be able to pick your brain about that entire process.
No doubt, man. Yeah, no, it's a process for sure, bro. And whatever process that you're on, and whoever's listening to this episode, just keep at it, keep at it. Like there's gonna be people telling you you can't do it, and I've never been a big person of like proving people wrong. Like I just want to prove myself right and prove like my God right. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Just continuing on that path. So, man, just keep at it. That's all I can say.
Yeah, cool. I appreciate you for hopping on episode 93. If you ever have a slow week on the Swider show, like hit me up down to
no
come
doubt.
on.
No doubt, my guy. Yeah.
But yeah, just to close things off, what'd you think of Cam's Corner?
No, it's great, man. I appreciate you having me on the show. Obviously, 2 Rhode Island guys just chopping it up. So it's always good to connect with the Rhode Island guys and keep on your journey, man. I see a bright future for you. Like I said, I see all your TikToks and seeing some of the calls you make for the URI men's basketball team, man. They're lucky to have you. So keep at it, man. And I'm sure I'll be seeing you around and seeing you up in the NBA someday.
I appreciate that, Cole. And again, episode 93. Tune into Cole again with the Miami Heat. You know, he's got his thing going on, of course, in the NBA, and the tail end of the season's coming up with playoffs. Like I said, I'm going to be drawing Knicks, Heat, and Celtics now. So tough playoff time come for me, but as a fan. But again, Cole, thank you again. Thank you guys for tuning into Cam's Corner, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
On a break.